We're live. What's going on, everybody? It's Friday night, 7 o'clock. You're here with the Red Cup Review and your host, Rob Banks, or as I am known as tonight, John Nada. And I am here with my best buddy, Baz. And of course, as promised, Andrew of Keyboard Warrior. Jesus Christ. Andrew of Keyboard Warriors.
I'm just going to say we didn't know any of that was going to happen. The screen's been black for about 5 minutes, and Baz was completely normal before that. And I'm trying to keep composed because it makes me professional. Man. Yeah, of course.
So,
by the way, pickups of the week.
This is going to be a quick pickup of the week. Yeah. There you go. I hope everybody.
That's all I need.
The worst bit is they're all one scale replicas, so they're not real.
Oh God!
Listen, don't hate me because you're not prepared, man.
So it's appropriate that this show talks about collectibles, and we talk about a lot about buying and consuming, and it's funny how the media has been in an uproar and how they're getting you to live in fear and all that other stuff. And Andrew here has created something that I am over the fucking moon for. It is a They Live board game. Andrew, tell us about They Live, the game, Assault on Cable 54.
Right. Well, first of all, thanks for that amazing intro. And secondly, I can't take all the credit. I have to give a lot of it to John Carpenter for actually making the movie. Basically, we got the opportunity to license this property from a strange idea that me and a friend had, who's the co-creator of this. So big shout out to Matt, who helped us sort of create this. And this happened about 2 years ago when we were on holiday as a group, and we sort of had a chat about this. And the question came up, well, a lot of people in production and stuff, could we make it? And it went from being a simple idea to actually existing. So we went to the studio, we got it greenlit, and we basically set up the ability to create a board game centered around the sort of the They Live movie and within the timeline, but also to have extra story and extra stuff that happens around it based on things that are said in the movie. So if I had to give you the sort of standard pitch, it's a 4 to 6 player co-op narrative game with hidden enemies. And the hidden enemies bit's really important because you'll remember from the movie, they have like these glasses called Hoffman lenses. And when you put them on, you can see stuff. And one of the biggest hurdles for us was, how do we make that real? And we could have gone the route where there's just cards that you turn over. Oh, that's it. There's the hidden stuff. Or we could have gone the phone app route. But a lot of games that use phone apps aren't really thinking about the future in sort of the next 5-10 years, because when your license stops, you might not always be able to continue to update said app. So it means then you have a dead game so many years down the line. What we wanted to do is actually make the glasses real. So we used polarization technology, which means you literally put on a pair of sunglasses and you can actually see hidden things in the game. So people you're playing with might be aliens. You put the glasses on, you can see hidden content there. And it's really exciting. It allows you to. There's just so much in there that involves writing, narrative, story, and really to let you have an almost RPG element whilst you're playing the game.
That is absolutely crazy. This is like a DLC to the movie itself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, from a board game perspective, what we had to face initially was Frank and Nada are the main guys in the movie, and we wanted to make sure that, obviously it's a 4 to 6 player game. Everybody's going to want to play as those two, so we had to introduce other stuff that could be happening over there. So for example, in the movie, there's a throwaway line about crazy stuff going on in San Anselmo, which is another area where there's a resistance cell and there's banks being robbed and things like that. So in one of the characters you can play as is an ex-member of the resistance from San Anselmo, and you get to have that person's backstory. So it's like you said, it's a DLC, it's additional content that allows it to branch out, as well as playing Nada and Frank's story. In addition to that as well, you have the opportunity to change history a little bit and actually win and survive, potentially, depending on how well you play the game. Or you could all just horribly die, exactly like in the movie. Spoilers.
I think if you haven't seen They Live at this point,
we've given you time to see the movie since like '88. So
that's freaking awesome, man. Let's take a look at the commercial. We're gonna do a screen share on the commercial. Let's remove this from the stream. Hold on 1 second. We're going to the fact that you actually able to get like these polarizing lenses to work is just mind-blowing. All right, now let me see how it looks here. All right, we're gonna do a watch along, everybody. So
yeah, and if it doesn't play properly, I'll happily talk and converse and things like that as it's going along.
All right. Well, I have it muted. You might have to here. Is that better? Is that a better? There we go. All right. Here it goes, everybody. They live the game. Let's see. Give us like a little, since we don't have the audio, you can give us kind of like a little.
Well, yeah. I mean, the big thing for us, as I say, was leaning into everything that happens in the movie, that little lines and things like that we can play along with. So one of the things for us is the kick-ass chew bubblegum line. It's iconic. Everybody knows it and understands it. And so as a result, we decided to create custom die that would actually represent that. So if you have a successful roll, it says kick-ass. And if you have an unsuccessful roll, it says chew bubblegum. So if you have all kick asses, then you've kicked ass and got no bubblegum, and that's the best possible roll that you can have. So even just though that's that line of dialogue from the movie, we've actually incorporated that. So you can think of that line and go through the whole process with rolling the die. The game's timed, and when we say timed, it means a certain amount of turns will result in the clock moving along. So you've got to get everything done, collect your allies, get your friends together, get everything done before the time elapses and assault Cable 54. And each time that you do that, it'll have different endings. This here that you've just seen is to do with the story elements to the game. So every character will have their own story missions that you can go and find out more about them, and you can upgrade them and gain skills and trivia and things like that, which is really, really cool. And we've leaned into quite a lot of the commercials and the commercialism. We've leaned into the glasses working. There's a pair of them. They exist. It's not some crazy prototype thing that doesn't exist, even though we've put it in 3D here. And we have created separate videos that actually show the technology working. So for us, it's always been about being faithful to the movie, making sure that because the first thing that we did as soon as we announced we were doing anything like this, people were saying things like, please don't suck. And this is my favorite movie. I'm not sure about you making a board game with it. And we wanted to be extremely, faithful to that source material because it matters. So things like the 10-minute fight that takes place, we wanted to replicate that. So PvP is an element of the game because you need to be able to investigate who is possibly an enemy in your group. And to do that, you have to look at their cards. So you have to overwhelm them, beat them in a fight. And then you get to use your glasses to look at their card. And if they're an alien, a face will appear on their card that shows that they're an alien.
Wow.
And that's the thing. And just one thing to comment on whilst I'm on stream. Obviously, I wear glasses. And one of the big things for us was, do they work with, if you already wear glasses? And the answer is yes, you can see through them and do all that. So
wow.
It's all those things we've taken into account. Like, can people see it? If you've got conditions that stop you seeing it, can people see it? My dad, for example, can't see 3D content. So we needed to make sure that worked with the glasses. And we've gone through all those tests to make sure that it's completely accessible to everybody, as long as you can see.
Wow. Shit ton of information. That's incredible. All right. So when this goes up live on the 31st?
Yeah, it goes up live on the 31st. However, you can pre-register on Kickstarter now. I would highly recommend you do that for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, there'll be different tiers of it on Kickstarter. So you can buy like the standard version of the game that comes with one pair of glasses, that comes with 6 of the custom dice. However, if there is a next tier up one that has 2 pairs of glasses and 12 dice, on day one, you'll be able to get the special edition for the price of the standard edition. for the first day. So getting registered, getting notified, going through all that on day one, it's the best. It's the best bet. We're taking a bit of a loss on that, but to make, as an incentive to get people involved in this, I need to stress we're not a huge board game company. We're a company that have, it's a ragtag group of people have put in funding and worked together. We've got brilliant artists that are actually from the community, so Hugo Dorado from Brazil, who you might see who does sort of custom work and things like that, and makes different shirts and t-shirts and content. He's like the main character artist for our game, and he works along with a gentleman called Max, who's done all our 3D and our UI and things like that. Pretty much everybody that we've worked alongside is involved in like the figure community in one way or another. And it's been a great opportunity to sort of bring those people together and actually do something creative and make some really nice content with it.
So how are they gonna find this? They just go to Kickstarter and type in "They Live" the board game?
Right. So first of all, you can do that. You can type in "They Live" on Kickstarter and go to upcoming projects, and it will appear. You can come to our social media and our Facebook and find it through there, and there'll be links and everything there. We also have our studio name, which is Iconic Studios, which is spelled iconic, but the last letter is a Q rather than a C. Okay, so it's Iconic with a Q, studios.com, and there's all the links, so you can just click the button and it'll take you to Kickstarter. If you've never done Kickstarter before, it's dead easy to sign yourself up and get yourself on there, and you click that little notify button that you can see there, and everything works. And you have the opportunity to share it and do everything that you want to with that. I will say that we're going to go a little bit crazy with the offers and the things like that. For example, we're going to offer people the ability to be in the credits in the manual for being supporters of the project. We're going to offer people who perhaps want to pay a little bit more the opportunity to be referenced in the game. So in a location card, they can have their name referenced. And there's going to be some cool stuff like that we're going to look at. And there'll be additional items like t-shirts with that wonderful art that you can see there, little dice bags with consume and obey and stuff like that written on them. So we're leaning into that in a positive way to because there's not a huge amount of They Live content out there, and it's nice to have stuff. I will just say as well, an incentive to come into the Facebook, so you can search They Live the Game and find us on Facebook. And I believe you've been sharing content on your page as well, so people will be able to find that there. Yep. In the next day or so, we're going to start a competition. We've got some friends at a company called Last Exit to Nowhere in the UK, and they do inspired t-shirts. And this is an absolutely amazing one that they've done. Nice white tee with all the content on there. We've got a few of them to give away, and we're going to be doing stuff like with sharing social media content and subscribing to stuff. You'll have opportunities to win them, and also we'll be doing competitions for the game and things like that. So you might actually win a copy for free as well. So it's all that sort of thing. I will say that this is not like a lot of other Kickstarter projects where people go on and what they do quite often is they cut down content to say, oh, this is a stretch, this is an extra thing. Anything that we do as a stretch goal or as an extra is something that if you fund it, it will exist. And if you don't fund it, it won't exist. Right. So it's very much driven by the community. If the community is interested in stuff, we will push for that content to exist. So like one of the requests that we're getting at the moment is a single player mode for people who necessarily don't have groups of 4 people to play with. And that's going to take some time to do. But what we're committing to do is if it reaches a certain goal, we will put that in the game and make sure it's implemented in the game. So we have ideas of how it works, but it's about, development time and things like that.
That's freaking awesome. So, all right. So this thing gets launched. What are you looking at as far as like production time on this? Another year out or what?
Right. Production time. I will say that our aim is for December, for around about, between November, December period. You know what's happening around the world at the moment. I will say that like last year and earlier on into last year, actually flew out to production facilities in China myself and spoke to people who are sort of involved in the community as well about producing this content. So what normally happens when people produce a board game or they produce any content, they go to what's called a trading partner, which is essentially a middleman who then goes and finds factories who can produce your stuff. What we did is went directly to the factories to make sure that they could produce samples and quality things. So all the polarization things that people see in the adverts where they can clearly see the the sort of hidden messages and things like that working actually exist, have been tested, and that's something that we've pushed for. It's been about quality all the way, because there's no point in sort of going by half measures with this sort of thing.
That's pretty freaking awesome, man. All right, so as you're developing this thing, who do you talk to? Who do you approach about this? Do you like, okay, we're gonna make a They Live board game? Do you like, have John Carpenter on speed dial? What are you doing?
Yeah, I wish. John, if you're listening, call me. But no, the way it works, initially, and being completely honest, when we thought of creating this game, we came up with the idea, and then we went, there's no way in hell they'll give us They Live for our first game. There's no way it's going to happen. So what we did is we started going for what I like to call an alike game, where we create something that sounds a little bit like They Live, but it's not quite. And it didn't have the magic that using the property had. We all the things were built to make it work. And for me, anyway, I wanted to make sure that we had that opportunity. And one of the people we were working with just said, well, why don't we go for it? Why don't we approach the studio? And we did. And the studio were like, yeah, we like your idea. If you can make it, go for it. And it was that simple. Everything we do has to go through them. They have to see it all and agree to it. So far, everything we've submitted to them, they've immediately gone, yes, we like it, go for it. So I'm very proud, like any new characters or any new images we've introduced don't affect the original source material, but the studio are happy with
how do you deal with licensing things through like Piper's likeness? Like, do you have to go to his family and stuff, or is it all through the movie studio that owns the likeness? And
right. Okay, I'm going to speak a little bit out of school here. So with this property, it's all been done through the studio. So they very, very clearly had breakdowns of this is this, this is that, this is the other. When you start to go into 3D likenesses, it becomes a little bit different. And I will say right now that we're working on action figure projects as well as a separate thing, just looking into stuff around that. And we spoke to licensors, and yeah, it is that. It's certain people, you actually have to go directly to them, and they have to agree what their likeness is going to be. So that actor has to say, yes, I like that. That's good to go.
Like 3D stuff, right? So that's like, anything that's not paper related. But if me and you wanted to turn around and we were like, oh, the three of us are going to make They Live the comic book, you just go to the movie studio?
For this property, yeah, but there might be other properties where where the actors have said, "Oh, my physical representation can't be in there." For example, there's another John Carpenter property out there, which I won't name, but all the actors in that property, it's only the main character's likeness that's allowed to be used, and if you use anybody else in that movie, they can't look like the actor.
Oh,
right. So it's all to do with contract. It's all to do with contracts. What was signed. I mean, like, you go back to Star Wars as an original sort of thing, and George Lucas was really smart. He got everybody to sign for merchandising and signing all their rights away at that point. He was very, very smart, because he was going to push that merchandising, and nobody thought it was going to be an important thing. And now, when all these figures and statues and all this pop culture content's out there, those contracts are really important. One of the things I was really surprised at is there's certain studios who don't know where their property is, or who's responsible for it, or who owns it. Like creators who don't know who owns their property. And I find that crazy, but it's...
You wouldn't even know where to start.
No. And the fact that they don't, if they own it and you've approached them and gone, hello, Mr. X, we want to make your thing, and they go, I literally don't know which studio owns my property anymore, because this studio's absorbed this studio, or this one's closed and it's now owned by this. Wow. Or this property, this studio owns it, but it's only in Holland, or something like that. That's the weird stuff that you come across. And so quite a lot of the time when certain companies come up and say, oh, why isn't this figure made or that figure made? Those are the reasons. It's because licensing's here and there and everywhere, and it's an interesting topic to get into.
Does that, you being from the UK, does that apply internationally as well? Like, could you have the rights, let's say, for England, but not for America, or for Holland and not for Russia, or whatever?
With certain licenses, you can have that. And that's the thing. With certain licenses, you can have that. I would say we aim to go for international licenses and stuff like that in general.
I mean, so you could run into that situation with a figure too. Like, let's just say you had the ability to get the rights and all that other stuff, but you only have the rights to produce this figure in whatever country, but it cannot necessarily be released in another country.
Taking a complete guess here, but I would guess that's why Winnie the Pooh wasn't released on Sideshow.
It wasn't.
As far as I'm aware, I don't believe that Hot Toy figure was released on Sideshow, but it was never listed as an exclusive or anything like that. But I think that's my understanding.
Holy shit!
Now, you know, I might be wrong about that figure. I might be wrong. It might just be lack of interest or whatever. But as far as I'm aware, there's certain figures that can't be released in certain places because their licenses contained, you know, like it might be the Japanese market or the Asian market. Or it might even be that some studios have contracts where that market doesn't even exist. They never wrote it into the contract, so it's the Wild West, and nobody can do anything about it. It's an interesting thing.
Wow, that's pretty wild, man. All right, well, hey, listen, everybody, They Live the Game on Kickstarter. Go and sign up for your early bird special. I've been, you know, what's funny about me signing up for this thing? I had no idea that you were even associated with this. First of all, you're the Keyboard Warriors guy, right? So
yeah, that's correct.
Is that your wife that you do the videos with?
It's my fiance, but yeah. Okay. I refer to her as the wife, pretty much, Joe. Yeah, she's great.
There you go. So, you know, this is like going on for like, it's got to be over a year or two now or whatever. And I was saying to my wife, because she helps me film periodically, I'm like, this is friggin' guy online. It does shit with his wife. And we got to get you in front of the fucking camera too, you know? So, and that was me referring to you before I even knew who you were, you know?
Yeah, it's bizarre how close this community is. And I really dig that, you know, that anybody can get involved and be part of it. But I think the community spirit thing's really important. And sometimes people lose that. And I think that's, you know, that's disappointing. I think it's always important to be able to go on shows and have conversations and just chat to each other, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So from that, I remember seeing a They Live game at one point, mad long ago, and liking it either on the Facebook page or something. Like, you had something up that I was like liked.
Yeah.
And then I completely forgot about it. And a few weeks ago or a month ago, whatever it was, when I had seen it come back around again, I was like, oh shit, a They Live game. And then I went, wait a second. Was I know I wasn't high when I saw this. Like, what's this all about? And when I spoke to you, I was like, oh shit, I remember seeing this.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. Well, like, yeah, sign up on Kickstarter for the early bird thing. And I went to go do it, and I had already done it. Like,
well, there you go. That's
you know,
I mean, for us, it was very important to make sure that we'd listed stuff, you know, to just kind of announce it early on, so people could start to trickle in. And now we're getting closer to that time. People have the opportunity to, you know, be more aware, because then they're going to start seeing ads and things like that.
How big is a community for you to be doing like board games? You know what I'm saying? Like, how big? I know that people like in my neighborhood periodically go to like the local comic shop and they do like game nights and stuff at D&D night, but like, is there like, it's a community pretty big for that?
You would be surprised. For example, the Marvel game that's just finished, that's on Kickstarter. So Marvel, through another studio, have produced a board game that's recently gone on there, and that just did over $1 million.
Oof.
With people, you know, from people actually actively buying the game. So it's amazing. There's conventions there, you know, but the big thing for me is introducing people back to games that are more than Monopoly. When you say to people a board game, name a board game. Baz, you're there, aren't you, bud? Name a board game for me. Anything.
Life.
Right? There you go. But yeah, you know, but people go, oh, board games, I don't know, Chutes and Ladders, Monopoly, Connect 4, drafts. You start to get into that sort of, you know, territory, and it's sort of opening people's eyes to the fact that there is so much more out there, and, you know, some really creative stuff. I mean, I know whenever I go to a party, there are certain card games that I shove in my bag and pull out at parties, and people go mad for them and then want to have board game nights. People who've never considered this as a thing now consider it an option. And I think people are people are getting a little bit fed up of the like online multiplayer in games where they don't see their friends anymore, and they want to come round to a house, and because there's no split screen co-op anymore, what do? You can sit around and play a game and something and have a a laugh and
that was
have people be the bad guys.
My son and I were having recently. This past week, he was like, Dad, there's no games for me and you to just sit next to each other on the couch and play. This is my 8-year-old telling me this, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know if, like, I'm sure they exist, but I had to go online and type in PS4 games like in the store and like 2-player local co-op. So we actually got this game. We wanted to play it and beating it this week. It was called A Way Out. It was like these 2 guys that have to escape.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I know the game.
That game was awesome. We just beat it yesterday. But you could only play it local co-op. And that's how I grew up playing with my brother and stuff. And Baz, we would sit around and play like all kinds of shit together, all kinds of fighting games and stuff. So, but it seems like those days are over, and it kind of sucks. It's like, oh, you got to play online. That's why I can't stand the new Battlefront game, because as much as everyone's like, oh, Battlefront 2 is amazing, it's amazing, I always go, still no local co-op, your game sucks. And everyone's like, get over it. Those fucking days are over, Grandpa. And I'm like, yo, dude.
Okay, boomer.
That's it, though. It's about social interaction, and I think I think there is a lot of that that's getting lost. Don't get me wrong; it's great for me to be able to play a game with somebody who's the other side of the world, who I don't get to see regular or whatever. But I still want to have that interaction when I've got friends round, and you don't always get that anymore. I think the most interactive stuff that we've had is we've got the PSVR. Right. And that's the thing that comes out when people come around, because everybody can have a quick 5-minute go on Beat Saber and laugh at each other flailing around the house with wands. Right. But that's the video game thing. But what we found more and more is board game property stuff, and the people who've tested this and played this locally and played, They Live, the bits that they've played, they've really, really enjoyed, and it's something that for me is really important to make sure that people enjoy their experience. It's not this game that we've designed for people who are experienced, they'll know what they're doing. But for people who maybe are just a They Live fan and haven't played a board game before, we've made the instructions as clear to follow as humanly possible. Right. Because I hate, and as a person who plays a lot of board games and uses a lot of the content, I hate getting an instruction manual and reading it for 30 minutes like a book, and then having to try and remember when a group of people are here around and we've had a few beers and stuff like that. I hate doing that. I like to be fully aware of what I'm doing, and we've tried to make this instruction manual as comprehensive as possible to make sure that anybody can have a go.
The board game thing reminds me a lot of, like, I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I wish I could still play it. I wish I had friends still around in my neighborhood that I can. I don't want to go. I don't even really want to go to the local, like, Friday night D&D session, because there's no real role playing. That's just like mostly dungeon crawling.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, even at my job and stuff, are like, D&D is ridiculous. And then you'll find guys that are like, nah, man, you order a pizza and have a few beers. That shit's awesome. Me and Baz got into it a few years ago before we both moved. And I was like, yo, the shit is awesome. I don't know if he ever played D&D before. When we were playing it, a buddy of mine, one of my good friends and I actually created a rule system, and we based it off of the Mass Effect game. And we played that, and we had a fucking blast. We would go once a week and hang out for 4 hours and throw dice and bullshit and stuff. So it's something that's kind of like a lost art nowadays.
Definitely. And I think feeling ownership over that character or whatever happening is really important. It's one of the reasons that in this game we made sure that there was a sliding scale of stats that were based on what happens to you. So when you get your character, for example,
hold on.
This is a very old card, so please ignore the stats that I've got across here, because they're all just generic. But for example, when you've got your character, what will happen is you start off with your initial stats and your initial skills and what your character comes with. No bubble gum, for example. And then what happens is you'll get an overlay that then goes over, and then there'll be a clear section that you'll be able to see your character through here. And then what happens on top of that is you will have wheels that allow your character to level up. So as you're going along through the game and you're experiencing different things, and how successful you are will directly impact on what you're doing. So if you're playing really badly and getting hit on the head all the time, you might get a concussion, you might lower your stats, you might have problems. And the idea is to do the best you can, so you've leveled up as much as possible. So when you go and assault Cable 54, hence the title, at the end, you will have the biggest chance of success, because there also might be the chance that one of the other players may come out and be a bad guy, and like Holly does in the movie, and go after you. And so that's really important to be able to have that situation where people can be what they want to be. If they are playing as a bad guy, that little bit of tension, that little bit of surprise. But the biggest USP, the biggest selling point for me is the glasses, because you can't not feel cool opening the glasses and looking at the cards and seeing stuff that isn't there. And I highly recommend looking at the video demos of it, because it actually works through the camera to show how these work. Yeah, exactly. They're awesome. They're awesome, Baz. They really are.
I was telling Baz about this, and he was like, "Yo, that's pretty cool. I like the idea that there's a spy amongst you, kind of. It's like a mole.
Yeah, exactly that.
You took a regular board game and turned it into an RPG session / you got leveling up, you got storylines and shit. Like, true fucking labor of love, man. Let me tell you,
we actually have an award-winning writer on the team. A gentleman called Luke Melia is a guy who's been involved in all of the story cards that we've been producing. And so each character's story is almost like its own little mini TV show, and it gives you a reason to want to play this one and then play a different character next time, because you're never going to have seen that story before. And also, each time you play it, you'll play with a different set of cards, meaning the story might be different, and it will also vary depending on if you're an alien or if you're a human.
That's dope.
Yo, check it. So did we talk about like what your history with the movie is, like when you first saw it, what you thought of it, its impact on you?
Impact on me. So, well, for me, I will say it was 12-year-old me who shouldn't have been watching these movies. It was the same 12-year-old me that was watching Predator and Commando and all those things. For me, the movie, the impact for me, I really like stories, and I think there's a Phantasm movie that does this as well, an Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where people don't necessarily win at the end. Where where it's like that endless struggle thing and standing up against this big power thing. I think that's why like Avengers: Infinity War did so well, and because there's that and we all lose, that depressing ending stays with you, and sort of the Empire. Yeah, exactly. So I think the idea of not the good guys winning all the time, or it being a larger story, but you're seeing just two smaller parts of it, is really important. So that was something that always stayed with me. And the style of the movie, it's so 80s. It's so referenced by people, and people don't realize it being referenced. They don't realize Duke Nukem referencing it all the time. They don't see it in The Simpsons necessarily, but they live as part of pop culture, and it's just so on point. So for me, 12-year-old me was fixated with it, along with all the other John Carpenter stuff, Halloween, The Thing, just everything up until about vampires. I think that was perhaps the last big one that I like Carpenter wise. But I will say that for me, it's just always had that positive place in my heart. So getting the opportunity to even think of the idea in a strange conversation whilst on holiday and then build it into something over a couple of years was fantastic. So I'm a big fan. I will say I've become a bigger fan whilst doing this project, purely because it got to the point where I think I was watching the movie once a day whilst working. So there's little bits that we continue, when you're watching a movie and you don't see like individual little lines, right? There's things that you like, for example, you don't realize how perhaps desperate the resistance speech is at the end. They talk about, oh, we're going to fight them and that, but go to work and act normal. It's very much like stay downtrodden. It's not a strong thing. You'd realize that they're losing, they're not winning. Right. And it's little things like that you just completely miss. You completely miss that they mentioned that the aliens might be interdimensional and not actually aliens.
Right.
Which is why we refer to them as invaders in the game, because if somebody has got in their head that they're interdimensional, they're not from another planet, then that means we need to be very faithful to that. And so I've become more of a fan as a result of just watching it again and again and living and sleeping and eating it every day. Consuming it.
I used to watch it a lot too when I had it on VHS. I just used to watch it over and over and over again. And like I was the only person that I knew that even liked the movie or knew about it at the time too. This is like in the late '80s, but it has such rewatchability.
Completely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's completely rewatchable. I love to watch the different contexts of stuff. Like, I find Holly's character fascinating. I find her absolutely amazing that you watch it the first time and you don't realize how deeply involved she is in it. She's just this damsel in distress that gets found in a car, very much like the beginning of Commando.
Yeah.
And gets whisked along for the adventure. And then, oh, yeah, she's a bad guy. And,
Right.
and oh, yeah, she led those people to the resistance place. And oh, yeah, she shot Keith in the head. Just Keith David, just bang, he's gone.
Yeah, that was
and
those moments.
That classic fight. I mean, did that fight? What was it, like 10 minutes?
Yeah, it's about 10 minutes. According to the documentary that I've also watched, apparently the script has blank pages. Because in a script, I think it's every page is representing like 5 minutes or 3 minutes of time, something like that. And so apparently there was a load of blank pages, and then the fight continues written on there, and then they would continue through, and then the script started again. So even in the script form, they knew how long that fight was going to be, and it's really clear as well from watching it that there's some bits that are slightly unscripted, and like you see it in Roddy's face, you know, when he's sort of like laughing at certain situations, not because the character's in disbelief, but because I think something might have gone wrong or not as they expected, or it had gone really well or better than they'd planned. And so that fight feels really real. I mean, it's very stunty, but it feels a lot more natural than some of the really big stage fights that we see these days.
Yeah, no, they just haul off on each other and beat the shit out of each other, like straight up, you know.
Fast and the Furious, throwing people off roofs and stuff. It's not a thing.
No music too, right? There was no music during that fight scene, right?
I don't believe so. I think it's very subtle if it is. I can't remember any music in that fight scene. I do think you're probably right with that. But the score for that movie is amazing.
I know that John Carpenter used to score his own movies. I'm sure he did it for that movie too.
Yes, right? He did do it for that movie. I will say, a big condolence to his the cinematographer for They Live. I believe passed away either today or yesterday. And so really? yeah, literally, wow. You know, within the last couple of days. So, you know, my condolences for them. But it's just one of those things. It's such an iconic movie. It holds a special place in my heart, and I think this game for me, if you're a They Live fan, it will meet those expectations. It's not just we've got another existing game and slapped a They Live sticker on it. We've made it so it is They Live. And if you've never watched the movie, I think you'll get just a crazy experience out of the combat, the unusual stories, and the glasses. I know people who we've tested it with who've not seen the movie They Live have then watched the movie and gone, "That's from your game." It's like, no, it's the other way around. That's what it is.
That's
now, when it comes to the glasses and the subliminal messages that it decodes, the government actually did or probably still uses subliminal messages. Can you screen share, Rob?
Yeah, sure.
I put up a sample of what was found in the 1960s. They used to broadcast the national anthem. I think after the programming day, they would end it with the national anthem, and then broadcast TV would shut off, and it would just be like, fuzz. But this was found in the national anthem. Trust the government. God is real. God is watching. Believe in government God. Rebellion is not tolerated. Trust the U.S. government. God is real. Believe in government God. Obey, consume. Obey, consume. Buy, believe. Worship, consume, believe. Do not question government God.
Wait a second. This was like what, one of those like things that would flash like between so many frames per second or something?
Yeah, exactly. It would show up really quick and then disappear.
I couldn't comment on that, but I would say, because I haven't looked into any of that or checked any of that, but I would say that, for example, there are a lot of laws in the UK that prevent subliminal messaging in advertising. So one of the things we had to be really careful with is we have a joke in our advert that flashes consume, which is like a fake sort of like tele-shopping advert thing, and we have that flashes. And we had to make sure that flashed really slowly, not like quickly, because it could be considered a subliminal message, and as a result, not let us play the advert.
Wow.
So it was one of those things that we had to be super careful with. So I know a lot of places have really big laws around it and what you can do. So stuff like that wouldn't surprise me that places have used.
That's absolutely
like that.
crazy. Baz, what's your earliest memory of They Live?
Like I said, like the late 80s. I think it's like, when did it come out? Like 87, right?
88.
88.
88, screened in the UK in 89, I believe.
And I remember I had it on VHS. I recorded it off like Showtime or something. And I just remember watching it with my stepfather, and he was like, this is real life. This is how it really is, he tells me. And I was like, yeah, whatever. This guy's fucking Looney Tune. And then when I got older, I was like, holy shit, yeah. He was fucking right. He knew something,
I think the themes, exactly like you're saying, are becoming. I mean, I link it back to video games. There's a term that they use in the industry at the moment called FOMO, which is fear of missing out. And a lot of video games do it now. Like, buy this DLC or this battle pass because you can only have it now, and if you miss it, you'll never have it again.
That's what happened to get my son with that shit. Yeah,
of course, it's addiction, and it's the same. It's the same thing that They Live was kind of satirically joking about in the 80s. That's there. Buy this Fortnite skin, or it now no longer will be in a video game anymore. And that for me is something that it's one of those messages you can just take and say, look, they are literally doing the consume thing. There you go.
There's toilet paper, or it won't be there anymore. Yeah,
exactly.
I think there's a video somewhere or an audio file where someone was interviewing Piper, and he said that he always considered They Live to be a documentary. And not
that's a great quote from him. I've read the quote of it, and I've not caught the audio of it. But he's. I think it does point out, there's so many subtle things. For example, have you seen that there's a Siskel and Ebert reference in the end of the movie?
A what?
Siskel and Ebert, the TV critics.
Yeah. And then doesn't one of them wind up being
one of them? They're aliens. They're both aliens.
Yeah.
And the whole point in the in the thing is, up until that point, every movie that Carpenter done, they had gone at in sort of an aggressive way, and so he put that in the end of the movie to kind of take a jab at them, saying, "Look, you're always pointing people away from our movie. This is the reason, because you want to see us as this or that." And I just think, I think it's great how on the nose he was, and the amount of satire and the amount of fun that's in there. But at the same time, it's quite a serious, kind of scary idea, and that's all those things draw me to it. It's awesome.
My earliest, when I think of They Live, not what reminds me of it, but when I think back, I remember the old TV guides, Baz, right? That we would get the old, 7 by 5 by 7s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like flipping through that and seeing like around Halloween time, like they would have like those full page ads, like it would be like, Channel 9 on Saturday night, and seeing the They Live thing, and then actually watching it with Grandpa Frank and being like, oh shit, like that was like, I was young, so it felt like, I'm watching like this adulty type movie and shit. And I always was fascinated with the look of the aliens. I always thought it was like a little scary. And it was actually winded up many years later being the first movie I ever watched with my son. He doesn't remember, of course, because he was a baby. But for the first night that my wife was like, I'm going out with the girls. You're on baby duty. Bye. Me and Grayson sat down. I had him in my arms. I was feeding him, and we watched They Live. And I hadn't seen it at that point for like 2 decades. And I was like, oh, that's it. This is the shit. So I told Grayson, when you're old enough, you'll get it. You'll get it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing how kids cement moments in your life like that. It really is.
Yeah, totally, man. So, all right. I am so pumped for this. Go and order yours on Kickstarter. They Live, the board game. Everybody that's watching, if you haven't liked the video, please like the video. This is like the midway break here. Obviously, check out Red Cup Review the Rebellion on Facebook. We're all in there, and you should be in there too. Obviously, if you're new to the page, please consider subscribing. All right, guys, we got a little bit of time left. We're going to speedball through some releases that came on this week. You guys want to talk some?
Yeah, definitely.
Now, don't all jump at it, Baz. I got it. Don't worry.
What Baz has done is he's put a perfect picture of himself in front of the camera and then gone to the
yeah, and then he bouncing. All right,
I've tried to not move.
I'm going to start with this one first because and we don't ever really look at Prime One Studio stuff on here, but it's not up on Sideshow, so we're going to look at it through the Facebook feed. And this was actually shown today for the first time, and this is Prime One has this Batman on pre-order, I'm sure soon, but it's a humongous statue. This is like their next in their I guess their Hush. They have like the hushed crouched version. And I guess for people that don't like that version, they can get this. That's the one that had the problem with like the leaning issues. Wait, nope, that's not it. There you go. It's here. And here you go. So he's got like multiple different face plates and stuff. I got to try and find an actual where they have all the different pictures. So that came out this week. We'll take a look at the Wonder Woman in a second. Somebody had like a bunch of here we go. Here's the full Monty there. There you go. So you got the base and he's in the back cave with the back computer. Or it looks like a really small back computer compared to how he's standing. But looks pretty dope. I'm sure it's going to be well over $1,000. Baz, what do you think?
Wow. The detail on that is beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah, I like the...
but like I said, I'm not a big Hush fan. So...
Yeah, I like the costume. But again, I'm with you there, too. You've kind of like creeped into my brain with that, whole Hush thing. So I'm kind of like... of two minds about it now myself. What do you think, Andrew?
I think if I was a statue guy, not a figure guy, I think that would be my second Batman. Because I mean, for me, I'll always go to Dark Knight Returns as my old grumpy Batman's definitely my first. I will say that though the Jim Lee style Hush, which is there, is quite appealing. I quite like Jim Lee's art style. So it does look a little bit non-dynamic, though. It looks very stock museum. I think I would like something a little bit more dynamic with the Jim Lee Batman. Something a bit more combaty.
That was like they had the one where he was like kind of half leaned over with the grappling hook and stuff. The one that had like the leaning issues. But one thing the guys, can you see my cursor rolling on the screen? One thing people are pointing out that I didn't even notice until it was pointed out, now I can't unsee it, is that right over here on the left side of his abs, it looks like the muscles are just protruding a little bit too much.
There's too much definition there.
It's like, no, it's like literally like looks like he has like
it's like
his ribs are sticking out of his stomach, like quite literally right here. There's 1, 2, 3 giant bumps coming out of his side here.
It's probably just the angle, man. It's the shadows are really stressing that part. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see it on this side, but then again, this side is also in this, the shade. But that is
also it's a prototype piece. So you don't know how they've put it together. You know what I mean? If it's before they've gone to master molding, they'll have it might be that it's part of the construction. It might be that on the prototype it's something that didn't come out properly and they needed to get it to a show. So they've stuck something to it. There's a million reasons that it could be there. Yeah. I don't think it'll look like that on full release.
I am a fan of this costume. This is like one of my favorite Batman costumes. I know Sweens is in the chat. What's up, Sweens? Mentioned he never liked the underwear on the outside. I kind of like the underwear on the outside of the superheroes because to me it breaks up the color.
That's literally why they did it. It's for printing. That's literally the reason that they did it.
For the exactly. And to me, it's like when I see that, it's like, okay, that like makes sense. Like when I look at that now. Oh God, remove from stream, and now let's go back to another screen share, and now we're gonna go taking a look at the Sideshow 6-scale stuff that's kind of coming out. All right, let's see. What were the two big reveals? Here you go, Batgirl from a couple of days ago, 243. Finally, a Batgirl in 6-scale. What do you think, Baz? You a fan of the Arkham Batgirl suit?
Yeah, I dig the suit. I was looking at the face sculpt. I don't know, man, how I feel about the big friggin' chin. She had a little bit she has a better jawline than I do, actually.
That's why I have a beard to give me that jawline. Yeah.
Yeah, she beats us all there. But I got used to it. Maybe it adds a little character, I guess, to the face.
I don't know if I'm a total fan of the cowl. I know it's based on the game. The cowl's kind of I don't know. I'm not used to her with that type of a cowl. I mean, I guess it works on Batman in the game, but and I love the Arkham designs for the most part. But some of them bother me, and this is one of the ones that was like I hate the Robin design and the Nightwing design in the Arkham games. I think they're just terrible. But I like this one more than them. But at the same time, I don't know. What do you think of the non-sculpted and the actual hair in the back? Barbie, you a fan? What about you, Andrew? You a fan of sculpted over?
Sculpted for me is more dynamic. I'd rather have 2 changeable sculpt pieces than spend my evening with a toothbrush and wet and a hairdryer just to try and get it looking. You know, I mean, as a guy who has no hair, I respect hair quite a lot. And you know, I just hate the Barbie look that you get sometimes when you take stuff out. I will just say with the long face, you know, just commenting on what Baz said earlier as well, I wish Hot Toys would pick which Batman Arkham style that they're going for. Because, so for example, the concept art for this, she has a smaller chin, but the in-game model, she has the bigger chin. And with the Arkham Batman that they produced, the sort of like, you know, the tight PVC trousers, those are only in the concept art. In the game, they're more of a thick canvas material. They're not shiny. And I just wish that they go, right, this is concept art, and we're going to make everything in concept art style, or we're going to make everything in-game style. Just pick one. Be consistent. Because I'll buy both. If you want to have concept art, a normal version, I'll buy both. But don't give me this, we're doing this, and we're doing this, and we're doing this, so things don't match up, because it throws my OCD out the window. I also hate that cape. I don't know who it is that they've got doing the capes there, but the overlap and then the button on top looks really...
This over here, like the clasp piece?
Yeah, the clasp. I mean, I know it overlaps in the game, that's great, but because of the scale of the material, it makes it look really big, and then a button on top. It looks almost like, you know, if you'd bought Barbie Batgirl, and the clothes are sort of oversized. That's
right. It's a little bit more broke.
You know? That's a good nickname for Barbie Batgirl.
Her name is Barbara.
It is. So yeah.
Would it have made more sense for them? You know how they have like multiple faceplates on these things to give it different expressions? What if they gave like, because people like, look, if you do the sculpted hair, she ain't going to be able to move her head all that much, right? So what if you had like the sculpted hair if you wanted to do a museum pose, and then a switch out sculpted hair as if you wanted to have her like jumping in action with it kind of flowing in a certain direction?
Look, I will pay more for more options. What I would always say is give people a stock version, like this is the standard one, and then if you want to pay more for a built-up version of it, then I'd be fine with that. I know already before buying this character figure, which I've already pre-ordered it, that I'm going to have to buy a custom cape. I've already budgeted that as an extra because it's going to do my head in so much at the point of purchasing.
Yeah, I had to do that too with the with pretty much all my Batman figures. I've gone to you know, different cape guys and stuff, you know, so
Lucky or Jackson are my go-to.
Lucky's my guy too.
Yeah.
All right, so there you have Batgirl. Baz, what do you think price-wise on it? You think that's about pretty much fucking standard at this point, right?
How much is it?
The 243. At least it's not 280 yet.
280 like Harley Quinn?
Oh, don't get me started on that piece of shit.
You know, like in the 90s and early 2000s, I used to think like, oh, you know, I wish they'd bring Barbara Gordon Batgirl back when she was what's her name? Oracle.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, I'd rather have Oracle back. I think Oracle was a unique, great character. Yeah, and I don't think they've done anything really that great with Batgirl.
I think that in figure realmness, when I'm looking at these pictures, I love it when Hot Toys like gives you like the breakdown of like what the characters and the accessories, and then they just show you shit that's like not an accessory just to fill in space, like
feet.
Here are her boots. Like we know she has fucking boots.
I'm glad I didn't have to buy the deluxe edition that came with feet. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, man. You know. But yeah, you know, the Oracle's cool, man. I'm down with that too, Baz. You know,
she does become. This is actually a prequel DLC. So the DLC for this game, you play as her as that character, and it's a prequel to her becoming Oracle. So I mean, I own all the Arkham figures. I'm a massive fan, and so that's why I like this, and I like the smirk on the face and everything because it's sort of arrogant, cocky, cheeky Batgirl. opposed to before she becomes Oracle and becomes a lot more serious in the game. So I like that DLC for that reason.
Here's Baz's instant pre-order. People are saying that this face sculpt looks good. I don't know what they're saying. This looks like confetti. Oh my god. I shouldn't even be commenting on this because I just think that this is the worst fucking design of a.
Andrew, did you see the movie?
Yes. My friends will know. My quick answer is DC have a problem not just doing the thing. They have all these really great comics that they seem to be able to do animated perfect. They just pick a comic and they go, "We'll make this in animated form," and it's great. And then in movies, they go, "Oh, we've got a great idea. Let's just do none of the characters. Let's just make Deadpool, but with Harley Quinn, including the flashback scene from the first one, including Cassandra Cain being Russell rather than a silent assassin. Oh, yeah, and let's kill major characters off that are in the Batman mythos just because we feel like it, because it'll be cool. Let's just make sure that they're dead and can't come back."
The thing is,
be relevant.
Ryan Reynolds is actually really funny. I mean, at least to me, he is. But she wasn't funny in that movie. I left there just like stunned. Like I was like, I don't know what the friggin' thing.
I wanted to like it.
Me too. That's why. Yeah.
My favorite character in that whole movie is Black Mask. That one scene in the nightclub with him is so dark and so sinister. And I was like, give me 2 hours of this. Forget everything else that's going on. I don't care about anybody outside of Black Canary and Huntress. Those two are interesting. But I want this weird Black Mask movie because that weird. Somebody in the comments has just said Cassandra was a good successor to Batgirl. She was amazing in the comic books, and that's why I'm so angry at the goddamn movie of going, let's make Russell from Deadpool 2, but it's a girl this time.
She's all she was a pickpocket, and actually there's a scene with her like she's like this heavyset Asian girl, and she was like skipping down the street, just pickpocketing people. Like that's really.
Did you hear the leaked alternate ending of that movie? Apparently,
was that with what you call it? The Diamond held actually held pictures of
naked pictures of Black Mask.
Little Dick. Yeah. That was the original ending of Harley. Yeah.
That was the original ending of that movie, and
that's why he wanted the Diamond back so much because it had his pictures of his dick.
Yeah, because that just screams to me Batman.
What do you think of this?
Well, they wanted to go full woke with that and full misandrist, I guess you would call it.
The sculpt in reply, I'm not feeling that one. I mean, look, and I say this to everybody: sculpts are totally subjective. If you get it in as well, I would also say that there's some sculpts that when you take pictures of them, they just don't come out right, and then you see them in hand and they're amazing. This may be that. I wouldn't buy this off a pre-order. I haven't bought it. I didn't make a video on it because I was just like, ugh. But if I saw somebody else's video and then liked it, or saw it in person and went, I really like the look of this, then maybe I'd buy just the head sculpt and make a classic Harley Quinn rather than.
I don't even think she looks crazy enough. Like I want to see crazy Harley, man. Like I don't know. To me, this is just like I don't even know what.
That doesn't look anything like her, dude. It doesn't look like her at all.
Look. The fact is, I still think they nailed the Suicide Squad Harley Quinn perfectly. That figure, the first one, the first one with a wide open mouth. I think that one was. I think that was
Sleepaway Camp mouth, Baz.
Insert Joker's dick here, mouth.
Well.
But I actually thought the prison one looked pretty good, where she was in her prison garb, which I thought was just completely like a stupid waste to make a figure based on her and her prison garb. But I thought that the head sculpt looked all right in that. I kind of the idea that she was like, sitting crisscross applesauce, drinking her tea and stuff. That's kind of cool, I guess. But I don't know. There's just nothing about this that I like. I don't even want to look at this anymore. Rob Just a Fan asks, are you guys getting a Pattinson Hot Toys Batman? Well, if they make it, maybe. And if the movie's got to be good, I would say. I mean, I'm not just going to get it.
I have major theories about that movie at the moment. I would suggest anybody go out and read Batman Earth 1, Volume 1 and 2. it's looking like the movie's going to be that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to get Mayor Penguin. I think we're going to get Alfred with the prosthetic leg and the shotgun and the grizzled beard, because Andy Serkis is not shaved. And I think they're going for that look. The suit has the same eye lines and the same stitching as the Earth One story.
Right. Okay.
So there's lots of it where I'm like, ooh, this.
Wasn't the Riddler the main? No, the Riddler was the main baddie in Earth.
In Volume 2,
yeah. Okay.
In Volume 2, he was. So I think what they're going to do is Volume 1 and Volume 2 as a quick mishmash, because 1's really just character building, and 2's that.
You know who had an excellent arc in that? Bullock.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right?
The whole alcoholic Bullock, ex reality TV star. Seriously, if you've not read Earth 1, Volume 1 and 2, go and buy them off Amazon, read them, or get them on Kindle or whatever, because they're fantastic.
Rob, of the best art by Gary Frank, who used to
I've read the Earth 1 Batman. I've read the first volume. I didn't read the second volume. I thought it was all right. It was pretty good. I like the idea that Alfred was special services, British intelligence and shit. That was cool. Makes sense. Field medic, all that bullshit. I'm down with that.
Yeah,
I think that that certain updates to the Batman mythos have to, would make sense. Alfred can't just be a butler because he's watching after a nut job. So he should be able to kind of help him train and have. Why the fuck is he able to work on the car and able to work on his weapons? He should have some kind of military background.
Completely.
I'm cool with
and Penguin was wasn't he responsible for the Wayne's death?
He was and he wasn't. So spoilers. If you've not read this, kind of put it on mute for a few seconds. In fact, I'll lower my finger when I've stopped talking spoilers. But he sent an assassination team after them, but somebody got to them first.
Oh, okay.
That was the book. Yeah. I read it again recently. So yeah,
that's cool, man. All right, what do you guys think of this Joker? I'm in the middle of washing my hair statue. It's $90. DC. Oh, it's 10 scale. What company is this? DC Direct 10 scale. I know.
Brian Boland. That's a Brian Boland cover.
Yeah, it's also a Killing Joke reference, isn't it? Yeah. It looks like that midway through that, just after taking the Red Hood helmet off, and then there's that.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good.
It's okay.
$95, not bad.
Yeah.
It's not going to break the bank at that amount.
Exactly. Here's one that I think that looks absolutely friggin' awesome, and I can't wait for the damn movie to come out.
Is it Beast? Was it Beauty and the Beast up there?
Oh wow! Yeah.
That is a damn pretty statue. It's really nice.
Yeah, this is that's dope, man. This is got me sold on this outfit. If we see shit like this in the movie, which I'm sure we're going to. If we ever get to see the movie, that is at this point.
If you want to cheap out and just read the entire script, it's on Reddit already.
Oh,
so I've read it.
What'd you think?
I'll talk to you off air because I don't want to get copy struck by Warner Brothers, because I think it's very, very much accurate based on everything I've seen is in the trailer. Mm-hmm. Let me just say that they've given Maxwell Lord some weird superpowers.
Okay.
For no reason.
And originally he just had some sort of telekinesis, right? Or
how about granting wishes and the whole monkey's paw story?
But that was did that come from a meteorite? The granting wishes thing?
I'm not saying anything.
We're already spilling the beans right now. But that's been out for a while. That whole plot point about the meteorite. There's actually pictures out there of him pointing to it with Cheetah. Yeah, so whatever. We'll see. I just think, listen, her as Wonder Woman, she's fantastic. That's just perfect casting. I mean, look at her and then look at a Jose Luis Garcia drawing of Wonder Woman, and just she matches up perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's, as I say, I don't think DC have had any problem really with their casting. For people who don't like Jared Leto as Joker, I say that him as a person being Joker was fine. I think the script that they had wasn't as strong as it should have been. Yeah. And to be honest, I think I'm getting really peeved with movie companies showing you everything. Can you imagine walking into the Suicide Squad, not knowing Joker was going to be in there, and then randomly there he is, and oh, it's Jared Leto? Can you imagine the surprise?
The problem with the Suicide Squad movie and the Jared Leto Joker, obviously he didn't have enough time in the movie to do anything, and the movie should have just been. You watch Assault on Arkham, the cartoon, and that should have been the movie.
But this is what I'm saying to you. The thing is, Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, who have been doing a lot of the control over the animation in DC, why are they not DC's Kevin Feige?
Yeah, that was going to say the same thing. Warner Brothers needs to hire Paul Dini and Bruce Timm to just be like, here's the keys to the castle. Bye.
Get on with it. Yeah, the fact is, I think even Marvel is starting to become aware of this with the Mandalorian. So you look at Dave Filoni, who's been doing Clone Wars for years, and it's like Marvel have gone, oh, hang on a second, that guy who made that show that was really successful, why don't we get him to make this thing and make it really successful? And it's worked. So I really do think just put those guys. Superman Red Son, I watched that the other day. It's fantastic. Just make that movie. I'll pay you whatever you want to go and see that movie.
That's one of my favorite Superman stories. I haven't seen the cartoon yet, though.
Watch it. It's great. There's a couple of tweaks, but it's not like the Hush cartoon where they totally changed the ending.
The Hush is the only one where I was like that. There was a couple that I wasn't crazy about, but I still kind of enjoyed. But as far as like the DC animated movies, I watched Hush, and I really enjoyed the Hush comic. Me and Baz go back and forth on this because Baz is 100% right. It's not really that great of a story. It's just a fun beat 'em up of who's who of Batman villains, basically. It's like if you don't know who Batman is and you want to know, read this story first. It's fun and chock full of shit, and it's got great art.
Exactly. It's did you guys ever play the Spider-Man PS1 game?
I did. Baz, that was the game you guys were playing when you guys came and visited me in college.
That game was sick.
Yeah.
Right? That's what Hush is. It's each level is a villain and another Batman character. And oh, look, Superman's turned up. And oh, look, this person's turned up.
Right.
That Spider-Man video game does exactly the same thing. It's like, oh, here's Captain America randomly. Here's this character randomly. It does exactly the same sort of thing, I think.
But the cartoon I thought was kind of whack. I thought the twist was stupid. I was like, this is like I don't know where they're going with this. To this day, one of my favorites, if not my favorite, still to this day, is A New Frontier. I just absolutely love that time period.
Yeah,
and
it's great.
Heroes being heroes, but I don't like what DC is doing now. Although I still enjoy all their stuff, I don't like this animation style that they're sticking with for every cartoon now. It's almost like they're just cranking them out with the same fucking animation style. And when they do shit like Gotham by Gaslight, it really stands out to me, and I wind up falling in love with it because at least it's different.
I'd say Red Sun takes its own style slightly. It's not the most stylized, but it's definitely not the New 52.
That's what I'm talking about. Like,
it's not that.
The Death and Return of Superman had that art style. The Justice League, I think it was War, had that art style. It all seems the earlier DC cartoon movies seemed like they all had their own thing that made it special.
Yeah.
And then they just started cranking them out, and they all started to look the same. And I didn't like that. And Badge would tell me it's all because they're trying to make like this animated universe of movies or some bullshit.
Yeah, they're all that style. When they use that style, that's all in continuity with Justice League War. It starts with Justice League War. Right. Yeah. But every once in a while, you'll have Bruce Timm and Paul Dini come back, and they'll put out a movie like Justice League versus the Fatal Five, where they introduced the new Green Lantern. What's her name? Jessica. What's her name?
I know you're talking about Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica Cruz. Yeah. So I from what I saw in that, I think they're trying to start like in continuity. Bruce Timm verse.
Yeah.
So so maybe we'll see another feature from Bruce Timm coming out soon.
Another one that I wasn't really that crazy about was the Batman versus Harley Quinn. I thought that was kind of just like an hour of fart jokes. So
that
was cheap. That was cheap and lazy to me.
Yeah. I'm going to quote one of my. I'm going to quote the co-creator of my game. Actually, he worked in a comic shop for like 10 years or something. It was like a ridiculous amount of time. And what he noticed was that, Harley Quinn, there was a weird thread with Harley Quinn, and it's the same thread that Deadpool went down, where it ceased to be about the character and was more about, this is now a comedy comic.
Right.
And people didn't know any of the other stuff. It was just, oh, Deadpool likes tacos, and that's what I know about him, rather than any of the like dark cancer story or any of that stuff.
Right.
And almost some of those people experienced that for the first time when they were watching the movie, and I find that really insane. I mean, don't get me wrong, every comic is somebody's first comic, every movie is somebody's first introduction to that character, and I'm not a snob saying, oh, you should only read this version and so on and so forth, but you do get situations like that where some people's first introduction to Harley Quinn it's literally fart jokes, and that's not cool.
Not stupid. I don't even like Harley Quinn unless she's like the Joker's sidekick, and like Harley Quinn in the Return of the Joker was so awesome. The Batman Beyond, and I don't even like Batman Beyond. I get a lot of shit for this all the time. I know. We see here it comes. I'm not that big of a fan of Batman Beyond, but the Batman Beyond Return of the Joker is so awesome. It's so fucking awesome, man.
It's a brilliant movie.
Yeah, it really is. And the fact that she's great in it, I like her being with Joker. I like seeing the crazy lunatic chick. I don't get this whole like I don't like it when they take villains and they turn them into like anti-heroes. I don't like that. I like my villains being villainous. The only time I like it when villains have to team up with heroes out of necessity, like when Magneto has to team up with the X-Men because Apocalypse is around. That's fine.
I've never really seen Magneto as a villain, though. He just has a slightly different point of view. Because like every time, in every parallel universe where Charles is dead, Magneto leads the X-Men.
Right, exactly.
He's just like, Charles is not here, I better do it then. And then that's always the sort of angle. I agree with you. It's why I don't like this new Joker movie, the Joker with old Joaquin Phoenix. I get it. If you like it, great, enjoy it. And it's just not the Joker for me. It's Taxi Driver and King of Comedy with a Joker label on it,
right?
And it just doesn't work for me. And if you like that movie, great. But I'd also recommend going and watching Taxi Driver and King of Comedy and walking out with a better experience with an original character, rather than just twisting something.
King of Comedy was friggin' excellent. I mean, I rewatched that movie like just before I watched the Joker, and I pretty much think that's my favorite Robert De Niro performance. As that character.
I haven't seen it yet. Can't comment.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's the weird, in the Joker where there's sort of these weird, deliberate cringe moments. There's a lot of that in King of Comedy, but it feels like something that you'd really have on the street with people when it's awkward, and you don't necessarily get that as well with the Joker. I feel Joker bashes you over the head with, we're going to play really sad violins now because I want you to be sad, because you're meant to feel upset for him. So here's some violins to tell you to feel sad.
Actually, I think that was a cello.
Well, it probably wasn't even that. It was probably a MIDI file on somebody's down computer these days.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh man, you guys are crazy.
Okay, real quick. No, I want to because Andrew is from Britain, right? Yeah. I want to talk to a Brit about Doctor Who real quick. Okay.
All right.
So I got back, as a kid, I would see like Doctor Who, like with what's his name, Tom Baker on PBS in America, and it used to spook me out and scare me a little bit, especially that weird music in the beginning, and it always had it had an effect on me. Now when the series came back in what was it, 2005 with Eccleston,
something like that. Yeah,
I was all in. It was on the Sci-Fi Network in America, and I was hooked from there on. And I watched all up until even when they had the last Doctor before this one. What's his name?
Capaldi.
Capaldi, yeah. And the show, that episode sucked, most of them. But I was down for him as the Doctor. I thought it was like, the show lost a lot of girl fans because they picked an older Doctor. But I was like, okay, they're gonna, they got an older Doctor. They're gonna have some like really dark stories with him, and turned it out to be shit anyway. But I still watched. But when they switched it to the Doctor's female now, I was like, okay, they're taking away the essence of the character for me, because to me the Doctor is like a crazy uncle, or like a quirky grandfather type archetype. a trickster, but he's definitely has masculine energy. And now when you switch it to a female, it just totally, that's it. I never watched it ever, but I still follow.
I get it. I am probably the worst Brit to speak to about Doctor Who because I fell out with it in the David Tennant era. And I mean, as a guy who owned like the Commodore 64 Doctor Who Tom Baker games and stuff like that, and watched all those older stuff. But I would say that if I can still have it somewhere, but I would say that my issue with Doctor Who is really simple. It can't pick a tone. And so I don't care if you want a male or a female character or whatever, cool. But pick a tone for your series. Are you going to be goofy? Or are you going to be a serious sci-fi series and be like, whatever? And I don't mind you having levity in a serious series because you can still have jokes and things like that. And that's cool. I'm not taking away from that. But, I always go back to like the first Eccleston stuff where you go like the first episode's clearly a horror story with evil mannequins that, kill people. And then the next one's farting aliens of chasing people around Downing Street. And I'm like, what? I just watched a horror story last week and now I've come in and now I've got no. And that's the issue that I have. And it makes me sound like the I hate everything guy. There's loads of things I love, but it's one of those
hate them.
We're part of the He-Man women hating club.
That's it. You got a new badge now, man. That's it. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think Doctor Who at the moment, for me, from what I remember, when they did a regeneration, it was a very big thing. It was like, we are ending this series because it's been on a long while and we're done. And I might be wrong about that, but I always remember it being a very big jump from here to here. And then the flip side of that is that this now, for me, who's not watching it, who just keeps up with news, you see things like, this Matt Smith's it, now Capaldi's it, now it's this lady, and now she's not doing well, so they might regenerate her, and then there's this happening. And for me, it just feels like, we're grasping at straws to try and get something that lands. And I think what they're really doing at the moment is they're looking for their new David Tennant. And they can't find that because it's been doing that ratings wise, and they're just trying to right the ship. Now it might be that in 20 years time or 10 years time or whatever, somebody goes, Capaldi's my favorite Doctor, or this new lady, whatever her name is, my favorite Doctor. But for me, it feels like a grasping at straws thing. And when they sort that out, then if they create a show that I want to watch, I'll be there. And I'm having big issues with the new Star Trek for similar reasons, that it's lost what made it Star Trek. They're doing long form storytelling rather than telling a single story in an hour.
Right.
Because that's what Star Trek was. Let's tell a self-contained story in an hour that you can watch in any old order. But if you do watch them all together, you understand an overarching context. The new Star Trek is, if you miss an episode, nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think they need to look at what makes things good rather than chasing a trend.
Discovery is absolutely awful. I tried with season 1 and season 2, and it's terrible. It's terrible.
I am the perfect Mark who should love Picard, and I'm really struggling. I'm struggling. I get
the criticisms against it, but I'm still kind of enjoying it a little bit. Rob, you would actually probably like it because like the whole plot is basically Mass Effect.
Really?
It's basically AI, and there's a group trying to extinguish AI because if AI comes to a certain development, then the destroyers come.
Oh shit! They just pretty much did the Mass Effect storyline.
It's Reapers and AI and all that. Yeah, they're doing Star Trek. It's funny because Mass Effect is actually takes from Star Trek, and now Star Trek is actually taking from Mass Effect.
But I also feel that episode 1, for example, was we're going to make a big action, Star Trek action thing. And then episode 2 was we're just going to talk and explain to you why things are happening. They seem to have lost this flow of telling sequential storytelling, but also telling stuff that's self-contained so you can understand what's going on. I've got no problem with like long-form storytelling. Great, do shows, but not every show needs to be that. And what made Star Trek unique was you could watch. If you're a Star Trek guy, you'll have a number of episodes that you just love, and you can just put them on without watching anything else.
The Four Lights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, for me, you know, the final episode, you know, All Good Things will always be you know, be something great to me. I go back. There's a time loop one as well with Kelsey Grammer appears at the end. I love that one.
There's one where Picard lives an entire life in
the flute.
The flute. Yeah, that's amazing.
See, now could you do that about an episode of Picard?
No, it's
That's my point.
But most shows are like that now.
Because what they're trying to do is get that continued binge watch cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what they're trying to do. It's we'll give it to you every week, but some people can now watch it all as a whole thing rather than dipping in and out of episodes. But I also think what they're not thinking, they're thinking in the streaming thing at the moment, and that's fine. But what they're also not thinking is of the TV audience, because TV audiences miss one episode and drop out.
That's like the writing to the trade, right? They're doing like that now with the like when comics went from writing issues, and it's like, well, why aren't the X-Men just playing ball and hanging out this month? And it's always some overarching story that has like 50 other things you got to get involved with, and if you're not, then you miss the whole thing. It falls apart like a deck of cards, kind of,
So it's everything. Yeah, I think they call it decompression.
Yeah,
or something like that. You used to be able to pick up a comic and get a whole story.
Yep.
Yeah.
In one book.
I don't even that's my problem with picking up on like, oh, I'm going to get into this now. It's like I have to start with trade number 1 and work my way into that story.
Not accessible, and it's great. It's why a lot of these animated movies, and you saying you like them, is because you can watch that animated movie and that's fine. But if you've watched the previous one, you've got a little bit more context, but you can still just watch that movie on its own. I would say you could probably watch The Dark Knight Returns Part 2 and watch the little 2-minute recap that's on the beginning of the first one and still enjoy it just as much.
Right. I enjoyed those two too. Those were two.
I do. They're fabulous. They're fabulous.
Those are really well done. I even like the first Wonder Woman one. Still to this day, I think it holds up. The first Wonder Woman, I think it was like the third, story they came out with. I think it was the Wonder Woman one.
Yeah,
I thought that was great, man. I was like, oh, which is pretty much the movie now, practically. But
yeah,
I really enjoyed that. Baz, what do you got going on? Anything good? We're gonna wrap this up.
What, like oh man, yeah, there hasn't been a lot of news, man. The only thing I can think of is there was some talk about Henry Cavill showing up in Shazam 2, and also Black Adam. Supposedly, The Rock wants him in those movies, and I think The Rock is pretty.
See any of these fucking movies, bro? Everything's getting delayed. I just got noticed that we were talking earlier that Black Widow might get delayed now out of the theaters and all this shit, and production stopped on something else. I was just looking on the phone a second ago, and it was like, oh, another production stopped. So it was like,
I said to you earlier, look at it this way: Bloodshot's released today to sort of very mediocre reviews, and it's going to be the only film that anybody can see at the cinema. So it's going to make like $1 billion, I'm guessing.
Wow!
Because there's nothing else.
Cavill's not going to be Wolverine, Rob. Just so you know, it's all just whatever. I'm going to run through shout outs real quick for the people that have joined us. Oh, Joe Fogo was actually able to join us again this week. Thanks, buddy, for joining up with us. I very much appreciate all that you've done for the channel so far. It's worked out lovely. And for Sweens, if he's still watching, and the guys from Magic Cop, we are trying to get you guys back on the show sometime this month. Let's see. Reach out to Mandy. We're trying to get her on the show too. I spoke to her today, Baz. I spoke to Mandy, and she was like, "Oh, I'm good anytime, but not Monday and Friday." And I'm like, "We do the show on Friday," and I'm like, all right, maybe the following Friday or something. So I'm working on that.
Okay, cool.
What's up? Shout outs to you. Obviously, Rob, just a fan. You're the best. Thanks for joining us again. I know James Belk was in here, Edwin Diaz, Largo Fitz, all the Trevor, all the All-Stars, the Red Cup family All-Stars were with us tonight. So that's pretty awesome. A couple of other new names I haven't seen before. I'm trying to scroll really fast through these guys. I usually earlier on. The Briscoe 1, 2, 3, 4 was here with us earlier. Anyways, love you guys. There you go. Briscoe. There you go. You guys are the best. You guys are the fucking best. Go and get your Kickstarter copy of They Live, because a few reasons. One, Andrew's cool, and he was nice enough to come on the show. No, he's really not that cool. Number two,
I'm not cool at all.
fucking awesome. Guys, guys, right above my head. All right, they live. All right, it begins and ends with that movie. Go get your copy. I'm going to be getting my copy. I'm already signed up. I can't wait. I'm going to try and get my name on that game. We'll see how that works out. And Baz, it was always good talking to you. I'd like to get to talk to you a little bit more during the week, but it is what it is, pal.
Andrew, good. Nice to meet you, man. Nice to meet a fellow Rainbow fan. We're few and far between, man.
Yes, but who else is going to listen to Kill the King? So we've got
nice.
the solo in that sort.
Good guess, man. Guys in the chat, I think we had a pretty good conversation. I really think the show picked up when we started talking about Harley Quinn and the movies and stuff like that. We'd like to have you back on so we could bullshit about Senator and stuff like that. Would be great. Rob, just a fan, perfect timing. They live with the virus. I said that earlier in the beginning of the show. It's all coming together lovely.
That's exactly why we planned it that way.
Guys, take care, everyone in the chat. We will see you next week. Probably same bad time, same bad channel. Take care, everybody. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for everything.
Fucking thing off. Bullshit.